Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parirabhja Charasthar His Divine Grace of Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Brinda Ki Namacharya Srila Hari Das Thakur Ki Prem Sekaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhana Ki Vrindavan Dhama Ki Mayapur Navadvip Dhama Ki Jagannath Puri Dhama Ki Gangamai Ki Jamunamai Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Tulsi Maharani Ki Gaura Premanandi. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. The day after Lord Nrsingadev's appearance, and we understand he appeared at dusk, At dusk was when Hiranyakashipu disappeared. So there are a whole lot of different personalities who have appeared the day after today. And we're going to talk about these different personalities and revisit a little bit yesterday. Again, touching base with some of these personalities. So today is the appearance day of Srila Madhavendra Puri, Srinivas Acharya, Parmesvari Das's disappearance day. Parmesvari Das. It's also the appearance day of Radha-Raman, the deity of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And it's also the beginning of the Salila Vihara, I think it's the boat festival. The boat festival. Now, we couldn't imagine taking a boat and sporting in Manasi Ganga. But in India, the temperature is just edging up towards 50 degrees Celsius. So, under those circumstances, the Lord has water pastimes. One time we were in Vrindavan and the boat festival was celebrated. So in the beautiful Vrindavan temple, they have a lovely floor which is similar colour in tiles to this, and it's in a sunken courtyard. So they block up all of the drainage holes and they fill up the courtyard with water. And then they make beautiful flower decorations on the surface of the water. So beautiful and so well made that it appears as though you could walk out across the floor, as Duryodhana did and fell in the water and vowed that he would get the Pandavas back at that time. So in this beautiful boat festival, an ornate boat, sometimes fashioned to be like a swan, with a throne in the middle, the deities come and led around with kirtan surrounding the courtyard and devotees in the water up to their knees, escorting the boat. They have nice decorations, beautiful ghee lamps around the edge of the courtyard in Vrindavan. And the time that I was there, the kirtan was quite exuberant and I became a little bit overjoyed. So I was splashing some of the water out at the devotees. It was Maha water because the deities had been on it. But the water was also splashing on the ghee lamps and the flames were leaping up into the air. So one of the leaders told me this is not the right mood, not allowed. But the boat festival is a very joyous occasion. Devotees in Mayapur, they've learned how to engage in water sports. And Jayapataka Maharaj, he was one of the experts. One of the water sports is that you get two people facing off and you splash water into the eyes of your opponent. So Jayapataka Maharaj, back in those days, he was able to swim across the Ganga, very powerful, very well built, and he also had the motion, the expert motion, so that you could splash the water, and you'd be defeated very quickly because your eyes were full of Ganga water. So Lord Chaitanya and his associates, they performed this pastime during the Jagannath Rath Yatra festival. There's a nice lake near the Gundicha temple. We were once swimming in that lake, and in the middle, some other people who were also swimming in the lake, younger people, they came and they started asking questions. So swimming in the lake near the Gundicha temple with Lord Jagannath in the background, we're having a philosophical discussion while trying to stay afloat within the lake. So there's different pastimes that go on when you're swimming, when you're with the Lord and the joyous association of the devotees. We had water pastimes similar to that in our Newcastle centre. Newcastle is famous for having wonderful surf beaches. So every Saturday was surfing with a big pizza party afterwards. So the Swami who was staying with us, he shouted us all, second-hand boogie boards and wetsuits, and one of his favourite pastimes was you'd catch a wave together, and then suddenly he'd be on your back tipping you off the surfboard. And he said, so when you're in a different circumstance, when you're associating with the devotees, not in a formal circumstance, you get to know each other a little bit better, wrestling and goading each other and just challenging. And so these water pastimes, they provide another opportunity to associate with the Lord, to associate with the devotees in a joyous mood. That's beginning today. Other water pastimes in Mayapur that I've attended are the offering of 108 lotuses to Radha Madhava and the pujari. In this instance it was Jananivas and Pankajangri. They would sit on either side and offer you the flower, and they would mention a name, one of the 108 names of Krishna, which you would offer the flower to the deities. And the deities were sitting again on a throne with a beautiful water fountain. So the water was cooling. If you didn't take shelter of water during those hot times, then you would go mad, because the heat, it would heat up the fire inside. Your pitta would become so inflamed, and it would press on the life airs, and the brain would become a little bit unhinged. So around the middle of the day, most of the residents of Mayapur would end up on the bank of the Ganges. It was like a picnic atmosphere, just bathing and wrestling, and it would be a great occasion when Jananivas would come down, and he would dive in and with his mouth he would spray water on the devotees, and they would also dive under the water, and they would grab the feet of the devotees and upend them. And also in the Ganges, when you were just there while you're standing in the water, you would feel something nibbling on your toes. So the fish in the Ganges would also get involved in the playful pastimes. So that's beginning that celebration is today. As I said, we couldn't imagine going down to Manasi Ganga and splashing around. The beach up at this part is quite inviting. 3 degrees at night, but 24 degrees during the day, so there can be some pastimes. And when you are in the association of devotees, those pastimes become almost transcendental. A couple of weeks after I joined up, I was with the devotee. We were on travelling Sankirtan, and we were in the supermarket and interacting, and it became like a different dimension. People were looking, who are those guys? What are they? Gauranga, what are they calling out? What are they talking about? When you do things with devotees, they take on a different aspect, because the Lord is involved. Krishna is involved. So here the boat pastime has Radha and Krishna on the boat. The boat is sometimes plying smoothly, sometimes it's rocking violently backwards and forwards. As we recall, there was a pastime with Krishna and the gopis on the Manasi Ganga lake. Krishna was disguised as a boatman, and all the gopis got into the boat to go across, and in the middle of the lake a storm brewed up, and the boat started rocking, and Krishna was playing a joke as the boatman with the gopis and saying, the boat's getting too heavy, we're going to sink, you've got to throw all your milk products off, now all your jewellery is going to make us sink, you've got to throw it off. And then the boat became rocking more and more wildly, and at the end the boat was about to capsize, so Radharani, she ran up and she threw her arms around Krishna, the boatman. Save me, save me! And Krishna just smiled, and then the storm abated, and so those pastimes are remembered and reenacted by the devotees. The boat is rocking backwards and forwards. The deities have to be very well secured Otherwise, you can see them shaking. Srinivas Acharya, the reason I've got this board, this sloka, or part of a sloka written up on the board, this is something that we can remember him very clearly by. This is the last line of the prayer called the Govinda Astikam. Sad Goswami Astikam, the Sad Goswami, the 6 Goswamis. So it's all in one line, so I'll just recite it and you can all together repeat afterwards. Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyago Sri Jiva Gopalako Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyago Sri Jiva Gopalako So there's 8 verses, 4 lines, and this is the refrain at the end. Srinivas Acharya, he is a member of like the second wave of the pioneers of Krishna consciousness. After Lord Chaitanya and his associates were disappearing, then 3 great personalities appeared to carry on the mission. And Srinivas Acharya was a member of that trio. Narottam, Srinivas, and his name was Suki or Duki. His name was changed to Shamananda. So Narottam, Srinivas, and Shamananda. They, after some time, when their glories were revealed, they were given the title, the epithet, by probably Jiva Goswami. It was Narottam Das Thakur. Thakur is an honourable title. Srinivas Acharya, a leader, and Shamananda Pandit. These are description of the qualities of the personalities. Srinivas Acharya. There was a devotee, and he was fortunate, or we can't say, he was fortunate to be in the association of devotees is greatly fortunate. So this devotee, he arrived at Katwa at the time when Lord Chaitanya was taking sannyas. Lord Chaitanya, Nimai Pandit, he left home. He left his young wife and his mother at home to take sannyas. Who knows why Lord Chaitanya took sannyas? He explained to his associates that in his attempt to preach, he would often be ridiculed. The students would challenge him. How can you get on our case? And so he decided that in order for them to not commit offences and to automatically get benefit, because a sannyasi is naturally is due respect, he decided to take sannyas. So even if they didn't want to listen to what he had to say or didn't want to follow what he had to say, they would offer respects, and so therefore they'd make advancement. So Lord Chaitanya decided to leave home at the age of 24, young wife and mother who was completely dependent upon him. And he went to Katwa with a few associates, and at Katwa they arranged for the sannyas ceremony. Part of the sannyas ceremony, just like when a young child, there's a ceremony at around I think 6 months old. It's the first head shaving. And the priest is doing the ceremony, but generally a barber is employed to actually do the the dirty business of taking the hair off. So in Lord Chaitanya's case, the barber was lined up, and Nimai, with his beautiful long, black, glossy, flowing locks, sat down and told him, "Shave me up." The barber looked at Nimai and recoiled and started crying, how can I do this? How can I perform this activity? Everybody was in distress. How can Lord Chaitanya, 24 years old, to renounce, because sannyas represents the mood of renunciation, to give up sense gratification. Horrible. Bhishmadev, he took a vow of brahmacharya in order to facilitate his father's happiness. So anybody know the story of Bhishmadev? Anybody say something about Bhishma? That's right, yes. He can die when he chooses, yes. Yeah, blessings, very many blessings. When he proclaimed the vow that he would not get married, because he was the prince, he was going to be king, and if he got married, then his offspring would be next in line. But his father wanted to marry a daughter of a fisherman, a fisher king. He was the king of the fishermen. And the daughter he was very attracted to, but the fisherman king, he said, he can't marry because what's the use of me having a child if they can't also inherit a kingdom and develop like that? So if he marries and then he has a child, but then that child will become the next in line. So Bhishma, because the king already had a son, Bhishma. So Bhishma said, well, in order to secure your daughter, I will make a vow that I will not get married. I'll give up the opportunity to engage in family activities and to have that wife and home and the sound of little children running around, the pitter-patter of little feet and comfort and the wife serving nice food stuff and making a nice arrangement. I'll give all that up. So as he proclaimed that, in order for my father to have his desires fulfilled. So as he proclaimed like that, then the demigods from heaven, they showered flowers and they glorified him. Voice of Bhishma, Bhishma. Bhishma means horrible, horrible vow. The grihastas, when they consider somebody's going to take brahmacharya or sannyas, what a horrible thing. To live on leaves and roots and just to be austere, taking cold bath and not having any life. So Grandfather Bhishma was like that. So the Lord Chaitanya, he was going to take sannyas and they had to shave his beautiful locks and everybody was distressed. How can he do it? Finally, after pacifying everybody in the barber, he was encouraged. Then he shaved off Lord Chaitanya's hair. And then the sannyas ceremony, and Lord Chaitanya was given the name, Nimai Pandit was given the name Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Sri Krishna Chaitanya. So this devotee who had fortunately arrived there, he was so much in shock, all he could say was, Chaitanya, 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 Chaitanya. Chaitanya, 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 Chaitanya. So he went back to his village and everybody saw that he was transformed and they said, oh, let's call him Chaitanya. He became Chaitanya Das. Chaitanya Das was married and then one night, or morning after waking up, his wife related to him a dream that she'd had. In that dream, Lord Chaitanya had appeared and said, you should have a child. So Chaitanya Das heard that, but being a a wise devotee, he didn't take it just on its own. He decided, I have to check. Devotees, they get an indication of the truth. But there's a system of checks and balances, Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. You might have a dream, but you can't put full faith in that dream until it is confirmed by Sadhu and Shastra. Shastra is the bottom line, the scriptures. It has to be something that's authorized, something that's prescribed. So the dream about having a child, Chaitanya Das decided, well, that's nice, but Lord Chaitanya, let's go and ask him. Let's get him to confirm. So Chaitanya Das and his wife, they travelled, they met Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya greeted them, was very affectionate towards them, and when they asked him to confirm the dream, he said, yes, definitely. He was desiring it very much. So that's confirmed. Chaitanya Das and his wife, they decided to have a child. They made arrangements, and then a child was conceived. When that child was born, I think Lord Chaitanya also at that time, he said, you give him this name. Hang on, no, that's another person. In advance, Lord Chaitanya was giving the name. Lord Chaitanya, he predicted that Srinivas's associate, Narottam, he started calling out Narottam in a kirtan. This was many years before Narottam appeared. Narottam, Narottam. And the devotees wonder, who's Narottam? Who's Naru? Who's Narottam? And then eventually Narottam appeared and he revealed his glories. So Srinivas also appeared, and then he was a special personality, invested with the potency of Lord Chaitanya. And he then, after going through his student life, studying, becoming very proficient in the Shastra, in the Vedas, he met up with Narottam, or because they were studying together. Jiva Goswami was their teacher. And one of the pastimes of the trio was after Jiva Goswami had arranged for the literatures that were becoming available, the scriptures becoming available in Vrindavan, to have them copied and put into a couple of trunks and then sent across India on a bullock cart. Months to travel with a bullock cart and a trunk full of books across to Mayapur, so that the devotees there could have access to these literatures. Even 150 years ago, the literatures were not so freely available. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he heard about the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, which were described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now, Chaitanya Charitamrita, we have easy access to it. And hundreds of sets of Chaitanya Charitamritas and Srimad Bhagavatams are distributed monthly all over the world. But in those days, Bhaktivinoda Thakur had to search high and low to find a copy of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. In the beginning, they were handwritten, hand-copied. And obviously, the potency is more direct. Nowadays, the printing press, it's a little bit more indirect, but still the transcendental sound vibration, the message is carried within those literatures. We can feel the potency of these bhakti scriptures, bhakti shastris. So they were employed to transport or to travel with the trunks of books and deliver them. On the way, they got stolen, and the devotees were in despair. Oh, these great treasures, we've lost them. So the three, Narottam, Srinivas, and Shamananda, they split up. One of them stayed in the area, the others went off to their preaching field. And they obviously developed strong bonding by serving together under a teacher, like the Gurukul, the Brahmachari ashram. The ashrams, there are places where you can associate very closely with other like-minded personalities and develop close attachments. When you do service together, the spiritual relationship deepens. Mundane relationships, they're like, I'll scratch your back and you scratch mine. They're not really based on love. It's more business or sense gratification, basically. So in the ashrams, the devotees, they associate closely serving Krishna. Krishna is the center. Even in the Grihastha ashram, to focus husband and wife, it doesn't work. It has to be husband and wife cooperating together to serve Krishna and Guru. Then that makes a proper working relationship. So Srinivas and Narottam and Shyamananda, they were very close. Narottam manifested wonderful activities, pastimes. Srinivas was a contemporary. He also went to another place in India and started to preach. And Srinivas made some disciples. There was two brothers who joined up, and they were given the name Ramchandra and Govinda. And then again, after some time of studying under their guru and becoming proficient in the preaching practices, because if you're going to preach, you have to have something to say. You can preach just on your realization. The first week out, you can go out and you can make devotees. Oh, I'm so happy. I chant Hare Krishna, and all this wonderful food, this prasadam, this incredible, intoxicating foodstuffs and beverages available, and I'm just so happy. I work hard day and night and fall asleep. I can sleep at night. I don't have insomnia. And yeah, can I have some of that too? Can I join up? Sure, come along with me. All you have to do is give up intoxication, meat eating, gambling, and illicit sex, and chant this mantra 16 rounds a day. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And I guarantee you'll be very happy. Chant Hare Krishna and your life will become sublime. Okay. Then after a while, then you have to go a little bit deeper in the ashram after some time. On travelling Sankirtan, and our leader, his name was Puri Das. Puri is a very exalted title in the sannyas ashram. So he loved the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he would train us up, and he would ask, okay, say you're meeting somebody on the street and they ask you about reincarnation. How do you explain reincarnation? So I started speculating and just off the top of my head saying, well, changing bodies, you're eternal, and in the next life you'll still be eternal, but you'll have a different body, and the body comes along dependent upon, and I was waffling on for a bit. Then he asked another one of the devotees, and he immediately says, Dehino smin jata dehi komuram jovanam jara tatadi hantara praptir diras tatra namuyate. One of the first slokas. Do you know that sloka, Mother? Do you know any slokas? What do you say when you bow down and come into the temple? Oh. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale. You know that sloka? Yeah, there you go. So that sloka, it's one of the first. Now you should start learning. That's the sloka that you should learn. It's Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text number 13. No, the translation for that sloka, Dehinos Minyatade, is. Can somebody give me the translation? As the embodied soul continuously passes in one body from boyhood to youth to old age, similarly the soul passes in another body at death. The sober person is not bewildered by such a change. So changing bodies, the soul is changing, boyhood, youth, old age. And then at death, another body. The sober person is not bewildered by such a change. That's reincarnation. You're changing body. You've changed bodies every 7 years. They say that every single blood corpuscle is new. You've got a new batch of blood. So changing bodies, and that's a scientific explanation. And it's very visual, you can see. We sometimes have diorama exhibits. Have you seen that one where there's the baby or so this little spark changes and then into it, samsara, the cycle of repeated birth and death. Yeah, body's changing. Body's changing. The sober person is not bewildered because we understand that we are the eternal spark, the spirit soul, which is transiting from one body to another. So you need to study because you're going to meet challenges. People are becoming smarter and smarter. They've got so many smartphones and smart devices around. They have access to more information and they can contemplate more broadly many different subjects. So we need to, if we're representing a spiritual tradition, it's not a wishy-washy, whatever you feel, it's all one. Love is God and God is love and God and I are one. It's not sentimental. There is substance to this. So the Shastras and studying, that gives us a foundation, authority on which we can present why we do these austere things. The non-devotees, even the scholars, they regard fasting as an austerity. The opposite of fasting is feasting, gorging yourself on all sorts of indescribable things. So studying and developing the ability to preach, these three brahmacharya associates, they became very close and actually I've heard that in temples where there is a strong study program, now we have the Bhakti Shastri course which is developing, then the devotees have some more material, more substance which they can interact. You have a Sunday feast and people are not studying, it's just a chance to socialise and talk about the finances or the weather or the latest crises, the violence in the world. So what? There was a song in the 60s, horror movie, the 6:30 news. This is what keeps people on edge and aware and worried about their body, their situation. So transcendental subject matter gives you a joy and upliftment and an opportunity to contemplate higher realms. So they've studied together and they've developed this close kinship, and Srinivas has just initiated Ramachandra and his brother Govinda. So they also, under the tutelage of their teacher, by following the guidance of their teacher, they developed to be great scholars and great devotees. Jiva Goswami recognized that. He gave them the title Kaviraj. Can anybody tell me what Kaviraj means and where Kaviraj is used? Kavi means poet and Raj means king. So who gets that title? Yes, he's one, and there's Govinda Kaviraj and Ramchandra Kaviraj. What does that mean? They present wonderful poetry describing Krishna. The Bhagavatam is a big poem, sometimes in prose, sometimes in verse form. It's a wonderful form of glorifying the Lord. We get poems and they're set to music, and so we can remember them, and we just, like songs, we feel comfortable. With Lord Nrsimhadev, for his protection, it said that we should just memorize his kirtan, Namaste Narasimhaya. Has anybody had the experience of being in danger and just because you've been trained to think of Lord Nrsimhadev, the Nrsimha mantra just pops into your mind? And has anybody had an experience like that? Not yet. Yeah. Do you want to relate it just briefly?
It's actually it's a very interesting story. Do you want to tell it?
Briefly.
I have been distributing small books and stickers. This is going back about 20 years ago. It was starting to get dark, and I thought, well, I better head back up here, right? I was down in Bangalore. All of a sudden, it started raining, right? But I thought, okay, I better really head back now. So I got in the car to turn on the car, and I noticed that the battery, I had left the lights on, so I had no battery, right? And this was before the mobile phone age. So I'm sitting down there in the rain in Bangalore. I can't drive back up here. I didn't have enough money to stay in a hotel or something. And I closed my eyes, and I was praying the Lord Nrsimhadev prayers, and I was visualizing Shishyara Govardhana and Shishigonitai, and you wouldn't believe it. This is a true story, right? I opened my eyes after having them closed for about 1 minute, and I'm still sitting in the driver's seat, and I could see in the rear view mirror some sort of vehicle had pulled up behind me, but the letters were in reverse, so I couldn't see what it was. So I got out of the car. It was a mobile car repair vehicle that had pulled up right behind my car where I was parked. So I got out of the car and I said, "Oh, can you help to start my car, you know?" And they said, "Yeah, sure, no problem, you know." And
Jai Nrsimha.
yeah, and then they started it, and then I took off, and I offered to give them, you know, just $10 or something, and they said, "No, don't worry about it."
Yeah, very quickly.
Sorry.
The mantras. We were driving along the road, and the road became full of potholes, and it was dangerous. So the passenger said, "Namaste Narasimhaya," and suddenly a road appeared. The road became traversable. We were having a Nrsimha Jagya in Canberra. The Jagya was based around the recitation of a Nrsimha mantra. Ugram Biram Mahavishnu Jwalantam Savato Mukam Nrsingham Vishanam Bhadram Mrityu Mrityu Namamyaham. Like Hindi, foot, chop. It was like so we had to recite that 108 times and swaha into the fire. So the fire was burning and Nrsimha mantras were flying, and the building became so full of smoke, the only way to get anywhere or to see was to crawl along the floor. It was so thick with smoke. And we started contemplating what's going to happen with all this smoke. Suddenly we heard the fire alarm. The fire engine was coming. But it came to across the road, somewhere else. We were immersed in Nrsimha meditation. And it was just like a transcendental bubble. And the atmosphere changed. You invoke Lord Nrsimhadev, and he makes changes. In Mayapur, Nrsimha is known as Dr. Nrsimha. He's very powerful. He's in the Ugra Nrsimha mode. And there's some amazing stories about Lord Nrsimha. So devotees, they go and they offer 108 manjaris to Lord Nrsimha with different names of Lord Nrsimha and offer prayers. Please help me in this situation. And he's got the reputation, Dr. Nrsimha. He can make remedies come true, and just amazing things. People in car accidents, because they've been living a life dependent upon Lord Nrsimhadev, they get thrown through the air 2 or 3 meters, they land on their head, they're unconscious, and they wake up and they relate they had a dream. I was caught in the arms of this big personality, and they've got a few bruises. And so Nrsimha, Lord Nrsimhadev, he has that reputation. So don't try and get yourself into dire circumstances so you need to call upon him, but just remember. And not even just remember, now practice. Practice regularly reciting Nrsimha mantra. Whenever we would go travelling, and even on the airplane, one time we had many, many devotees on the airplane. So as the airplane was taxiing down, one of the devotees started singing Nrsimha prayers. Namaste, Narash. And then all the devotees joined in, and everybody on the plane, they were enveloped in this atmosphere, and they looked around and said, oh, this is going to be a safe flight. There's devotees here who are protected by the Lord, so they felt confident. Should finish up with Srinivas a little bit. Srinivas, Ramchandra and Govinda Kaviraj. There's another title, another personality who gets the title Kaviraj. That's the Ayurvedic physician. He's an Ayurvedic Kaviraj. And Ayurvedic, the science of medicine is presented in the Vedas. If you understand it, if you're adept, Prabhupada, he was offered some help by the Kavirajas, and he would accept medicine by very exalted Kavirajas, exalted physicians. And the most exalted were ones who would prepare medicines, and they would chant so many rounds of Hare Krishna mantra in order to invest the potency into the medicine. Then the medicine was, because the best medicine is Oshodhi Maya Nasi Baralagi Harinama Maha Mantra. The Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, that's the best medicine. Have any spiritual or material ailments, then by chanting Hare Krishna, even by wearing a garland offered to Krishna, all of those ailments will go away. It's the best medicine because it cleanses all of the dirty things within the heart. It cleanses the soul. The soul can never be contaminated. There's contaminated consciousness, the association with the body, then the soul develops a contaminated sense of identity. So those dirty things, they're cleansed away simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Or any mantra glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the Ayurvedic physician, he's also given the title Kaviraj. He understands how to clean the dirty things within the body, the dirty things within the heart, the blockages, to get them moving like that. And then because, and part of the science of listening to a class is being able to ask questions. I'll leave a couple of minutes, we can ask questions. And people sometimes they ask, what's the best question to ask? Because there's different categories of questions. There's self-advertisement questions, there's challenging questions, there's sincere questions. So how do you ask a good question? Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he was asked, well, how come you have such a nice relationship with Prabhupada? You can interact with him. And his answer was, well, I want to know something, so I ask him, I inquire. And Prabhupada reciprocates. He understands the mood of the questioner. So in this instance was asked, what's the best question you can ask? The answer came back from the teacher, that question which will clear up the doubt which is blocking you from moving forward. I have a doubt, so why am I feeling like this? Or what does this mean? Or how can I get past this doubt? That's the best question. And the speaker, if they're tuned in to Krishna, who's in the heart, and into the individual who's asking the question, they can help to remove that obstacle. And then you can just move forward. Because spiritual life is simple. We're not this body. We're a spiritual, eternal, living entity, part and parcel of the Supreme Spirit. And therefore our business is to serve that Supreme Spirit. So what would stop us from doing it? Madhu. A question should be thought through and should be to the point as well. It's not a... reaction. Is that correct? I can repeat it. His question is, when one takes initiation from a bona fide spiritual master, one's karma is supposed to be removed. That's correct. The example is given like a ceiling fan.
And also the Swami or initiating person. Oh, sorry. The spiritual master takes the reaction of his disciples. If they do something wrong, he's affected. Is that correct?
Yeah, all those things.
For the rest of their life.
That's the tattva, the truth about spiritual master and disciple relationship. Okay, so I'll just explain some of the details of it. When you agree to accept the guidance of a spiritual master, you promise to avoid sinful activities, specifically meat eating, gambling, illicit sex, and intoxication. Those are the pillars of irreligion. So if you can avoid those, then there's unlikely that you'll engage in sinful activities again. That's enough questions.
Like Jayapataka Swami,
Do you want the answer?
Yeah. Yes.
You've got to be interested in the answer, otherwise don't ask the question. I haven't answered the question yet.
Oh, you're still going, okay.
Yeah. We can talk further if you want to give more details.
Well,
Okay. So, do you want to hear?
yeah, go on.
Put the microphone down. So the contract, the arrangement between the spiritual master and the disciples, I promise to follow the regulative principles and I accept your guidance. Please guide me back home to the spiritual world. So the spiritual master says, I accept you as my duly initiated disciple. What that does is that disconnects the fan which is rotating, our karma. Our karma, we're not putting any, we promise now from this moment, I'm not going to add any more sinful activities to my backload of karma. So when you pull the plug out from a fan, it's spinning around wildly. We're just driven by all of these crazy desires which come about because of the intention to do something sinful. So then there's 4 different stages of karma. So we're forced to repeat. It's called sinful activity. Why, Arjuna asked Krishna, why is it that I'm impelled to act against my own will? And Krishna's answer is karma esha, krodha esha. It's lust, it's sin because of the mode of passion we're driven by the mode of passion. So that we're just victims of that. So when we agree to stop that cycle, to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master who is a representative of Krishna, then the plug is pulled out. No more, we promise not to engage in any more sinful activities. The reactions from those sinful activities, they wind down. They wind down. It's not instantaneous. It's not like, bang, you're free. You're karma free. Because we've still got a body. If we were free from karma, we didn't have any sinful activities, then why do we need a material body? So we have a material body, we have a material mind. Those things have to be dissolved. And in due course of time, they do get dissolved by engaging in more devotional service. Following the instruction of the spiritual master, he says, chant. How many times a day are you supposed to chant the Maha Mantra for somebody who's initiated? 16 rounds a day. Yeah. How long does that take? 2.5 hours, yeah. So that's our obligation. In order to receive that benediction from the spiritual master, we have to follow, we practice, we have to fulfill the contract. And then the second part of the question was, can you remember? That the spiritual master, he feels, yeah, because it's a living relationship. It's a living relationship. If you plug the fan back in, then the fan's going to start going. And the spiritual master, he's agreed to take care of you. So he takes care of you by bearing the burden of some of that reaction. Just for instance, the leader of a country, the Prime Minister, when he gets put into office, he's often young and he's still attractive and handsome. After a couple of months in office, grey hairs start to happen and all, because he's taking the burden of all of the people in the country. The leader is responsible for all of the followers. So if the followers are good, they're not engaged in sinful activities, then the leader can take 1/6 of the result of their pious activities. If they're not good, he takes 1/6 of their sinful activities. He becomes old and haggard and because of bearing the burden of all these sinful followers. It's actually the duty of a good leader to train the followers to not engage in sinful activities. Okay? Is that enough to contemplate for some time? So your responsibility to your spiritual master is to fulfill your promises to the best of your ability. And if you can't, you go before your spiritual master and you ask for forgiveness. If you commit offences to the holy name, what do? You keep chanting, but in a mood of begging for forgiveness. One of the offences in chanting Hare Krishna, the seventh offence. Who can tell me what is the seventh offence? Namno balad papi buddhi. To commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name. That's a great offence. We understand that by chanting one Hare Krishna mantra, we can be cleansed of all more sinful reactions than is possible for us to commit. Hare Krishna, so purifying. But if we think, okay, well, I've got these desires and I can't help myself, I just got to do it, and I'll chant Hare Krishna afterwards. That's offensive. That's like dirty mat. You're using the holy name like a mat to rub your dirty feet on. You go to the church and you what's the word? Confess. You confess your sin. Oh, I was so bad. Oh, please absolve me. Okay. Chant so many Hail Marys. You come back next week. Oh, what sort of absolution is that? What sort of benefit is that? No, there's a contract. There's responsibility. Because we're so grateful, because we feel tangibly the benefit of having the shelter of somebody who's going to relieve us of what we've been burdened with for lifetimes. Simple reactions. Material desires. Now we've got the opportunity to become free from material desires. We can develop spiritual desires. We can develop a higher taste. And go back there. What's the verse about the higher taste from the Bhagavad Gita? Visaya vinivatante niraharasya denaha rasovajam rasupiyasya param dristva nivatate. Anybody knows the translation for that? While Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 text number 59. The embodied spirit soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, though the taste still remains. You're in hospital, you've got indigestion, and you're told, don't eat this and this and this and this, you're restricted. And you think, oh, all right. And then you get better. As soon as you get out of the hospital, you do this and this and this and this again, and you get sick again. So the taste still remains. But engaging in devotional practice, in spiritual practice, one develops a higher taste. A higher taste is easy to give up the lower taste. You can't just restrict. You have to get a higher taste. So I better stop there. It's time for that higher taste of Krishna Prasad, although you will have to wait in queue. You haven't missed out on anything. And the spiritual nourishment is hopefully there. Madhavendra Puri, Ramachandra, Kaviraj, Radha-Raman appearance. Remember those personalities on this day. Parmesvari Das, he was disappeared today. He was one of the Gopal followers of Krishna, and he was an associate of Lord Nityananda. And the boat festival, swimming and playing with devotees in the water, with Krishna in the center. So remember those activities today. Pray for the mercy of these great personalities, and please make spiritual advancement. Hare Krishna.